Hi, I'm Nancy Hernon, CEO of G3 Translate, and I'm an outlier.
Hey everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, the podcast where we interview founders, disruptors, and mavens. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. On today's episode, we have Nancy Hernon. She is the co-founder and CEO of G3 Translate. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Ever. Thanks for having me on.
We're really excited to have you on. You're working on something that's kind of cool, very cool, something that's going to, resonate with a lot of our audience, just because we're trying to figure out our own path and our own success when it comes to everything that we're doing. I think that what you're doing is not only interesting, but I think we're going to be able to get to know not only more about you, but kind of learn more about the whole system and process that you're working on now. I think it's going to help our own entrepreneur journey. So again, welcome for being on.
Thank you.
Let's talk about. I want to paint the picture for our audience. Where you're calling us from now, where you're working. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm actually working from home in upstate New York, about an hour north of New York City.
And we were kind of talking about this offline. You commute to the city every day.
I do. I make that horrible commute every day.
What's that like? An hour? You were saying an hour, sometimes longer?
Yeah, if there's zero traffic, which I leave my house about 5:15, 5:20 in the morning, so there's no traffic. That's about an hour and five door to door. But in the evenings when I'm coming home, it can take easily up to 2-3 hours,
Really?
depending on, if something crazy happens, which seems to be often in New York and New Jersey. I can get stuck for a while. So my dinner is always cold.
The price to pay for living in the city like New York, right? New York City, which is a great place, offers a lot of opportunities, especially for entrepreneurs. What's the vibe there when it comes to startups and entrepreneurship? What's the community like there in the city?
In the city, it's really vibrant. I think a lot of people are going out on their own and branching out and trying to do new things, and there's definitely money to be had. I personally get emails every single day for people looking to invest in my company.
Really?
So
Wow.
I think it's definitely alive and kicking. I go to some of the chamber events, and they're always jam-packed with people with great ideas. The Small Business Administration here is great for helping out, getting you started. Just all the paperwork and the filings, which for me were like crazy because I'm not that person with the legal mind. So having some people around to guide and mentor you, there's an abundance of that in New York. And if you look just about anywhere, you can't throw a stone and not hit somebody who's willing to help and jump in.
Even in, it's funny because we think about New York City, right? The, hey, we're walking here type of mentality, right? The hard-nosed, tough New Yorker. But you're saying that there are people there willing to help, that want to give back.
Definitely. And the one thing about New York, which my husband always reminds me of because he's a native New Yorker, born in St. Vincent. We're all transplants, like most of us. Most of us are transplants, so we're not from New York. And I think there's definitely a helpful mindset there if you just ask. It's not that hard nosed and tough like everyone seems to think. I think it's a friendly place.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
I've never had any problems. I mean, aside from the occasional cab snatcher, when I needed directions, there was always somebody willing to point me out in the right way.
I love New York City. It's a great city. So congratulations for making it work there. We're going to get into a little bit of the work-life balance here later in this episode. But now let's get right into the heart of this whole thing. You are the co-founder and CEO of G3 Translate. What is it? How does it work?
Okay, so G3 Translate, I started with my business partner, John Labate, and two investors, Ann Brown and Harriet Natus, back in 2006. We saw a need for translations in a very, very particular field, market research. And we decided to start a niche boutique agency to service that industry. So what we do is we basically translate all of those lovely surveys that you get when you're online visiting a website, buying a product, or just giving your opinion on maybe Donald Trump. We've had our hands in the translations on a global scale now since 2006. So that's what we do. That's where we focus. We help companies bring new products to market. We help them see where their products might be falling down in the translations of the responses from the surveys. And we help them even with simple things like, does this brand slogan work in another country? Or what about our name? Does it resonate in some particular way? Like, for example, years and years ago, Puffs, the tissue maker, decided to market their tissues in Germany. And, Puffs to us, we think of it's synonymous with tissues. Well, in Germany, a puff is a brothel.
No.
So it's maybe not the right name for your product over there.
And so some of them, what do they know, right? So they come to people like you, and you help them figure that out.
Yes. Well, we translate the surveys that help them figure it out. We work in conjunction with market research agencies who write these surveys, and they have specialists in market that really go deep. And then we get the surveys and look and see, how can we convey that in the right voice for the audience in that particular market? Because everyone doesn't communicate in the same way. Some countries are more formal. Some countries are more lax. Maybe the voice is different. We tend to write in English very short, clipped sentences, whereas in German, a sentence could go on for 3 pages and be written in a really, passive voice or something along those lines. So you need to make sure that you're talking to the people in your target demographic in a way that resonates with them and doesn't feel like you're coming at them as an American company trying to sell an American product. You want the product to feel like it was born in China and made for the Chinese people, and not just something you're trying to push over and kind of indoctrinate them with your culture. So we help to communicate on a level that's more local.
I want to get into some of the mistakes that you've seen some of the people that you've worked with make. We don't need to get into the specific names or anything like that, but just overall type of mistakes a little bit further down the line. But let's focus on the company for a little bit. 2006, not really a startup anymore, right?
No.
What's the difference between that core team when you started to now? Have you added more team members, and what does it look like today?
Well, yes, we definitely have. The startup, the first month I was all alone by myself in the office until my partner joined me. And it was just the two of us for a while, just kind of staring at each other. How do we do this? Because neither one of us had ever started a company before. But now we have a team of, I believe it's 18. We just got someone new. So 18 people that are full-time employees.
Are they all in New York, or are they?
No, they're not. And that has definitely been an interesting challenge over the last year or so. We actually have the bulk of our team in New York. They're project managers. And we have a small team in Europe, like 3 people working out of Europe, and a small team in the Southwest. So we've had to learn how to remotely manage people and manage their time. And that has been very, very challenging, especially when you're crossing time zones. And we're crossing now, I think, 4 time zones between our people. And that doesn't even count the thousands of translators in our database that we're contacting on a daily basis to work on these projects. So it can be a little bit difficult, and it's definitely very different from that just me and John staring at each other across the computer screens to like having 17, 18 people coming and asking you questions and needing your input and advice. And it's can be scary sometimes with growth. It could be a little bit like, oh wow, we're responsible now for
Agree.
feeding these people and
Agree.
putting,
And their
you
families,
know,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and their families and
No
making sure
pressure at
that,
all. Come on, you can do
yeah,
it.
payroll, like, oh God.
So it's funny because we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening to the show that are solopreneurs. You're right, the one man shop. Others that have larger teams, and it feels like when we first get started, we're excited because we're solving a problem or offering a service or an actual product. But then there comes, if we continue to grow, there comes that fine line, that kind of threshold where we're not we're not really focusing on the problem anymore. Now we're becoming managers, right?
Right.
And so now you have 18 people, like you said, and everything that goes along with 18 people, payroll, health insurance, all that stuff. How's that transition been for you specifically, from just the two of you in the beginning to now like managing this company with like personnel problems and issues and different things like that, on top of running the company?
Well, it's it's definitely, I'll be perfectly honest, not hugely my challenge.
Uh-huh.
Thankfully, my business partner,
Nice.
John, is very good with all of the HR type of things, but he's had to almost become a lawyer in a way, just going through
I could
all
see
of the
that.
paperwork and all of the things. But we have, thank God, a wonderful bookkeeper and accounting firm that helps us keep all the insurance and all the taxes and all the payroll stuff straight. But there have been times when it's just like, oh my gosh, what do we get into? Because we're still small enough that we don't have like a huge team to do that. And it really falls, on our shoulders. And as an example, we had an intern that had started with us, and there were some issues, and we had to like figure out how to deal with them. What's the legality of this? What do we do? And it was definitely interesting, and we learned a lot. And the one part of my job that I don't like is if it's not working out with an employee and you have to let them go. I had never done that previously in any of my jobs,
And you're
and
doing it now,
and
right?
and I'm doing it now. Yeah, that we do that together. That's a team effort between he and I. And I always want to cry
Yeah.
because it's like it's a hard thing to do, to know that you're telling this person you just can't. It's not working out. We can't use you anymore. So yeah, it's definitely a big shift from just the two of us relying on each other, troubleshooting together, putting our heads together, to like having to manage like personalities and issues and problems and yeah.
So it
I,
sounds like you and your co-founder really complement each other's skill set right now when it comes to running the company.
oh, definitely, he's the really down to earth guy who's not afraid to put his nose to the grindstone and do all the paperwork and fill out all the forms and make sure that we've dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's, and I'm the one who goes out and does this crazy travel and marketing and dealing with clients and having meetings and kind of being the idea person more than anything. Like, okay, oh, there's this new technology, let's do it. That's kind of my role, is looking out and where can we go from here and what do we need to get there. And then he goes out and buys it after I tell him.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
it really is. It's a great synergy between the two of us. I think on our own, we both would have had big challenges, but together, I think we complement each other in a way that we can really lean on each other and make it work. And it's worked for quite a while now, almost 12 years. So
That's huge. Congratulations. Almost 12 years,
yeah,
right? Most
thank
companies
you.
don't make it that even halfway, right? And here you are 12 years later almost. Let's talk about your so you talked about your big idea stuff. You're the one that kind of figures out the new technology. You're kind of all over the place when it comes to traveling and marketing and all those different things. So then what does
Hmm.
your day-to-day look like? I mean, is there do you know you're doing this one specific thing every Tuesday, or what does it look like? If we were to follow you around for a week or so, what would we see?
Oh my gosh, you would probably see a lot of different stuff because my day changes
Hmm.
literally every day. Um, but yeah, a lot of my day is actually sales. I still have my fingers very, very deeply into the sales cycle, and customer relationship management. So every day I'm on the phone talking to clients or prospective clients, looking at marketing materials, approving them, editing, making sure that the tweets that go out are good, and that everything is on track. And just picking up the phone and making calls or sending emails. I spend a heck of a lot of time on LinkedIn, just connecting with people, seeing, how I can help them or how they can help me. I find that having a big network is really important, because if you have a business question or you have an issue or a problem, you can always turn to your network and contact. You can find someone there to contact and ask them. And also vice versa, I get emails, with questions for me, like, how can I do this? Or what do you think about that? And a lot of my day is just spent communicating. And then on the odd day, if there's a problem where a client needs something and it's particularly challenging for us to do, I'll jump in and try to help out with that and try to figure out new solutions. Because the type of translation work that we do, market research, is always tends to be on a very, very tight deadline. And sometimes the deadlines are literally, you need to be a machine to do it. Mm-hmm. And we have to try to sit down and brainstorm with the team and figure out ways of how we can get it done in the time frame in a way that makes sense. And one of the most difficult things is during any given day, if a request comes through and it's just not feasible, and having to say no to a client is very, very hard. But I think that I found it's better to say no than to try to do it and completely bomb.
Sure.
Because a lot of, they say you're only as good as your last project. And that can definitely be the case with certain clients. So, yeah, firing clients is very hard.
Sure, right? Especially in the beginning. But it's funny because as entrepreneurs, we're kind of told or reminded or whatever that, or maybe it's just in us, that if we get asked something, we say yes, and then we figure out how to do it, right? But there's also a fine line there.
Yes.
If it's not within your core services or talents or whatever, or maybe you just don't want to get into it, it's hard to say no. But it feels like you're doing it, and you're doing it well.
Yeah, it's just it's always hard to say no, and it doesn't happen often. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's a common occurrence, but sometimes things just physically aren't possible. I mean, there's a lot of great tools out there, and we use them to make things fast and make things quick and get it done. But for example, one client came to us and they wanted to have, I think it was like 20 hours of Japanese transcribed into English in a day.
Nice.
And it's like, okay, we can hire X amount of transcribers and try to do that, but a day is still not enough because you have to proofread it all when it's done.
Yeah.
And just proofreading 20 hours, that's like thousands of pages. Uh-huh. And you don't want to have like 500 proofreaders looking at it, because then there'll be mistakes. So it's things like that are just outside of the realm of possibility. I mean, maybe one day with artificial intelligence, it might be possible.
Yeah, I know not yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. We're not there yet. Google is still needs some improvement.
Yeah, let's talk about competition. What is that? I don't know the space as well, but I'm assuming that it's pretty tight and very like cutthroat. What does it look like for you?
The competition is very, very fierce. But the thing is, in our industry, well, we're a niche company. So in our particular niche, there's not as much competition. And nobody's been around doing it quite as long as we have specifically in this vertical, for this vertical. So in that way, we're pretty good, because that's all we do. And most of our competitors are doing other things. They do, a little bit of market research, a little bit of advertising, a little bit of book translation, maybe web translation for tech companies or whatever. But we really focus on one area, and that is the market research side of things. So that for us, makes it easier. But in the translation industry as a whole, there's a ton of competition, but there's a ton of content out there that needs to be translated. Mm-hmm. So I would say, honestly, it's still growing, and there's still enough, no, more than enough room for people to come in and do it. Translation is going to continue to grow and grow and grow as the amount of data on the internet just grows exponentially daily. And people want to translate that. They want to see it. They want to know what other people are saying all around the world. And I think the biggest challenge that faces the translation industry today isn't competition or amount of content to be translated, but having enough translators out there, because there really aren't that many.
What are you doing to stay ahead of the game? I mean, you mentioned Google and like the AI stuff, and is this going to go away?
Oh, no,
You don't
no.
think so?
No, not at all. I think AI, machine translation, neural machine translation is rapidly improving on a daily basis. I was just at a conference last month with some translation founders conference, and there was a guy who was presenting. He's a neural machine translation expert, and it's just going to get better and better and better. Will it replace us? Probably not anytime soon.
What does that look like anytime soon? Next year, 10 years, 20 years?
I don't think it would replace us in the next 10 or 20 years, even, because I think, well, depending on the type of translation you do, some translation companies will die and go away for sure. The ones who are translating, your automotive repair manuals, or, how to install your IKEA furniture, like that stuff is easily automated. But the translation companies that are doing the creative content, as brilliant and as intelligent as a machine might be or become, it's probably going to take a very long time before it'll ever have human sentiment or feelings. And
they're nuances, right? They're those little
yeah,
things. Yes.
exactly. And while a machine can process that with the neural network, they don't understand it because they don't feel. And I think that you need to have some feeling behind the words, especially when you're trying to convince somebody to buy your product over someone else's. And that part of translation, the advertising, the marketing, the research, where you're really dealing with how people feel about things and their emotional attachment to them, that's not going to go away anytime soon. I have faith that the machines are not going to outsmart the humans in that way. At least I hope not.
Not yet, anyway, right? Good. Well, congratulations. It sounds like you guys are doing something that's obviously needed, and you're doing it and doing it well, and we're excited to kind of continue to follow you and see what's going on. Let's kind of move into this next phase of the episode. You're the CEO, right, running this incredible company. You talked about your commute taking at least an hour, if not longer, most days. But I know you still have a little one at home. What's that work-life balance looking like right now? And is it going to improve? Is it going to get worse? What's the next little while going to hold for you when it comes to trying to work that whole dynamic out? And it's not just a mom issue. I think it's men and women, right? Moms and dads. Yeah. So what does that look like for you right now?
That's a really interesting question, and it's something that I ask myself regularly, because we do live so far from the city, commute time wise, and it's difficult to balance. I have a 4-year-old daughter who needs me more and more every day, so I have to try to mitigate that. I've set pretty strict hours for myself of when I'm actually in the office. And I like to make sure that I'm there very early in the morning so I can leave in the early afternoon to hopefully avoid some of that rush. I always get stuck in a little bit of it. But as far as that changing, I think, we've been doing this thing with our team in the office where if you have small ones at home, they work from home certain days of the week. Or if you have a long commute, you work from home certain days of the week. So I think, I'm probably going to take that onto myself, because I don't think I have to physically be there every single day of the week to help and guide. I mean, I have Skype, I have email, I have my phone, I have video chat. It's not an issue. So I think I see the next couple of years me being a little bit more present at my home, so I'm there when my kid is home from school and I don't just get home in time for dinner and bedtime, which is the case nowadays. And I think it's something that people in Western society especially need to take a hard look at. Are you spending time with your kids? You know, the moms and the dads are both working. I'm very fortunate that my husband was able to be a stay-at-home dad for these 4 years with her. So she's always had at least one of us around all the time. But not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, companies need to recognize that and offer up alternatives like we do with our team. You know, if you live really far from the office, you don't have to drive in every day. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it's also better for the environment.
And so you're aware of, obviously, not just your own situation, but your employee situation. That's huge. Congratulations. That's a big deal that you're trying to make it work for, obviously, not just yourself, but for your team.
Yes.
That can go a long way.
It's really important. Yeah. Our team, like, we've been really very lucky to have a team that's grown with us as we've added on members of the team. You know, we were all young and fresh when we started, and now people are starting to have babies and get married and do all that stuff. And so we had to kind of prioritize and modify. Like, no, you know, we don't want to work every day until 2:00 in the morning. You know, I mean, there were days in the beginning when I would literally go into the office at 8:00 in the morning, and I would still be working at 5:30 the next morning without having slept. Yeah. It's just, you know, trying to figure something out. Like, how do I work with this file? Or, you know, we get all kinds of crazy stuff thrown at us. And so as we grew up in the company, our employees grew up with us, and we realized that we had to make some shifts and changes and accommodate for a life. You know, it's I guess we're a lifestyle company. We're not Google with, you know, the in-home massage people, but we do try to make adjustments and allow our team freedom and liberty to do things. Like, we have one employee who's from Eastern Europe, and he wanted to work remotely from Eastern Europe for a while. He wanted to see his family because he doesn't get to see them very often because they're there and he's here. And we're like, okay, you know, you can go and do your thing, you know, as long as you get your work done.
That's cool.
You know, we're perfectly happy with that. I think being too strict and looking at the clock, you know, oh, were you here at 9:30? Did you leave at 5:30? I think that's just not reality anymore.
Yeah, anymore,
you
for
know?
sure. So is there a strategic reason why New York City, or can headquarters be anywhere else and still kind of function the way it is right now?
Well, I mean, I think we could function in another place, but I think New York City is just such a dynamic and diverse environment. We've had employees from all over the world come to us. Our team is very multicultural, and I'm not sure that a lot of areas, like, I think if I were to move to, you know, a remote town in upstate New York, we wouldn't have the team that we have now.
Yeah.
So the candidate selection is definitely much better in New York.
So it's working for the company being there.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
It's an advantage.
You know, it's an advantage, but the disadvantage is, of course, you know, New York City rent is not easy.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck with that. So when we have you back on the show in 3 years, what are we going to be talking about?
I think we'll be talking about more about that neural machine translation and how we're using it and
nice.
implementing it into our team.
Very nice.
I think that's going to be the next thing.
So you won't be fighting it; you're going to be using it, controlling it.
Oh yeah,
I
would like to. Yes, I would like to make sure that that's implemented because I think that's the direction we're going. It's going to be us editing the machines and making sure they did it right. So we'll be faster, more agile, probably cheaper, and yeah. So I think 3 years from now we'll definitely be knee deep into that realm.
I love it. We talked a little bit about this offline. Our audience, serial entrepreneurs, a lot of us are in the trenches, right, trying to make our companies, help them grow and all that good stuff. The other half, 9-to-5ers, corporate guys and gals that have a side hustle or are looking to kind of jump full time into entrepreneurship. With all of your experiences as a CEO, as a founder, as a person in general, any advice for our audience? What can we take from you to kind of get us to that next level, whatever that is?
Well, I think for me, jumping into it, I was scared to death because I thought, I can't do this. I don't have the qualifications. I don't have the MBA from Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a business student. I'm just a translator. I think the biggest thing that anyone, whether you're a 9 to 5 or with a side hustle or a serial entrepreneur, is to overcome that fear and not let it get in your way. Sometimes you just have to jump into the cold water and just say, if I fail, I'm just going to get back up and try again. There have been plenty of times over the years with this company where we've fallen down and we've been like, oh my God, should we just stop? Like, what should we do? And just overcoming that fear of failure and not letting it rule you. I've seen some people with some brilliant ideas just too scared to jump in and do it. And someone else snaps it up and then it's done and they're making millions. So yeah, don't be afraid to run with it. That's my biggest advice, is to just let go of that fear. Get out of your own head and just do.
That's perfect advice.
Yeah.
Perfect, right? Because we in the position that we're in with the podcast, we have almost 400 episodes, maybe a little bit more now. We have a lot of events, entrepreneur events, and things like that. And so we meet a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of cool people that are young and ambitious, that have great ideas, but they just don't do it. They're waiting for something. They're afraid of something. And then, we meet them again 2, 3, 4 years later, and they're still in the same spot because they just didn't do it. Right? We've seen others that jump in, make mistakes, but they figure it out or they start over again. And yeah, you got to take chances. That's perfect advice for our audience, I think.
Yeah. If you don't gamble, you can't win.
Exactly. I love it. And this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. For those that are listening and that want to learn more about you and the company, where can we find you online?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can find me at g3translate.com. G3, the number 3, translate, translate.com. Or I'm on Twitter at G3Translate or at Nancy_G3. And I'm always looking for people on LinkedIn, so please hook up with me there, Nancy Hernon on LinkedIn.
Perfect. So Outliers, you can go to outliermagazine.co. That's outliermagazine.co. First of all, subscribe to our podcast, rate, review it, share with your friends. But there you're going to find links to Nancy's the website, all her social media accounts. Connect with her. She's the real deal. She's working on some amazing things, and it's just going to get bigger and better. Nancy, congratulations on all of the success. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us on the show. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ever, for having me. This has been great. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.